everyone. Hello. Oh, girls, you're looking cute. So sad. Say hi. Wow.
Looks the same.
You look the same. Are you sure? Anyway, I'm looking cuter today. This is RWJ
Couch Chat.
Yeah, and we are the
Jgirls.
So I'm Mommy J.
I'm Little Green.
And
Big Boy.
And so we are the Jgirls, and once again we are getting to know you. Broadcast today, and we have a lovely guest with us, another lovely lady. Anyway, so we'll get to tell you about our guest when we'll come back shortly. See you soon. You're back.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hey, hello. What's
Hi, girls.
Hi. Hello, Auntie. Please, can you tell us your name?
My name is Kelechi Nkebakwu.
Okay, so we have Auntie Kelechi on the show today. She's on the dial. So we are getting to know you today, and we know you are Kelechi. We want to know everything about you, how you grew up, because the purpose of the show is to bridge the gap between the knowledge of how we grew up as parents and raising our kids, especially those of us in the diaspora. You know, there is that bridge of understanding, especially when it comes to communication, discipline, and just understanding why the brain of an African parent ticks the way it does for kids. So that's why we want to just see you, and then we'll get to know you better. So we have some few questions for you, and usually, first question, Missy J.
Tell us about yourself.
Tell us about yourself.
Oh, thank you very much for that question. Okay, so as I said, my name is Kelechi Nkebakwu. I'm a Nigerian, and I guess my most important achievement is, or my highest prized achievement is the fact that I'm a mom, and I'm a mom of 3 children myself. So yes, that's really about me. I'm a diagnostic radiographer.
What does that mean for kids that don't understand?
Okay, so that means if you jump on a trampoline and you fall and hurt yourself, God forbid, you probably come to me to do an x-ray to see your bones, so the doctor can decide whether you need a cast or not.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. What part of Nigeria did you come from?
I come from the southeastern part of Nigeria, specifically Abia State. So I am actually Igbo by tribe, if you will. Yes. But my husband is also from the south, but not quite the southeast. He's from Delta State. So I don't know. Depends on which way you're going by by birth or by marriage. So yes, but I'm from the south of Nigeria.
Oh, that's good. So it's like a bit of a mini cultural mix in the marriage. So Little J, any other question?
What's your favorite food?
What's your favorite food?
What's my favorite food? My favorite food? I'm gonna have to go with my basic. I'm a foodie, guys, so I love all kinds of food. As long as it's well prepared, I'll enjoy it. But there's a special place in my heart for eba and okra soup. There's a special place in my heart. I mean, it can't be denied.
You just made Jemima's home now by mentioning eba and okra soup.
Oh, really? Don't you like it as well?
Yes,
it's the best, isn't it? Don't mind these rice people. I don't know what they are doing. They don't know what they are missing.
For decades, I've been trying to shift from my post of rice, and I can't. So I think I'm new there.
Wow, so you're rice, but well numbered. But we know what the real MVPs, Jemima, don't we? We're the ones.
Okay, so any other question?
What's your least favorite food then?
Your least favorite food?
My least favorite food? Do I have a least favorite food? I don't know. I don't know if I have a least favorite food, to be honest. Any food that is well prepared is good. I mean, the only kind of food I would say maybe I'm not so into is any food that is not properly cooked. So I would say maybe that's not the word. Maybe any food that is not cooked. So maybe something like sushi, for example, I probably wouldn't go near that personally, just because. Just because I'm not sure, I'm not sure if it's not cooked, then maybe not to go. Yeah.
So another man's meat, another man's poison. So,
absolutely.
That's the word is. And so, Big J, any question? No. What's your hobby?
My hobby. That's what I do. What I enjoy doing. I don't know. I have a lot of hobbies. I enjoy just having a good chat with my friends. Having if I've had a stressful week, the way I would unwind is to actually organize for a family to come over or to go and visit a family. Just that chatting and laughing does something to my BP. I don't know. It just does something. It does something to me. By the time I'm going home, I feel relaxed. Just having had a good time, had a good laugh. I think that's just really anything that can bring me a good laugh, I think is the hobby. Yeah.
Moving from your hobby, movies and reading, what kind of books you like, music, just to bring.
Well, to be honest, I'm really into African books. I am very, very into Africa as a whole. It's something that's just happened in my adult life, or just in recent times, I've just noticed that I'm just asking myself a lot of questions, having lived in the Western world for quite some time, asking myself about my identity, who am I, who are my children, so definitely when it comes to book, I love Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I think she's a great writer. I enjoy her style of writing. I think even when I try my hands at writing, I come out with stuff that seems similar because in style to her writing, this very descriptive, very reminiscent kind of writing of her background or upbringing. So I love that for books. And I'm also into books that help you, to develop as a person, to grow as a person. I'm also into historic books as well. It just depends what my hands find. But if I were to go on the shelf and buy a book, it would be an African book from an African playwright, for example. And for music, I listen to all kinds of music, but I try to stick to gospel music. I try to stick to, I'm also if I'm having, like I said, I like to hang out with friends. Sometimes I really enjoy the Afrobeat music, just playing in the background, just giving that vibe of a nice, African environment as well. Quite like that. I quite like gospel as well. I like worship music, as well. So yeah, it's just a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And as for movies, I'm a chick flick type of girl because I'm a chick, right? So chick flicks make sense. I just like a good cry and a good, a good yeah. But I will say I'm married and my husband likes the action thrillers, and I'm kind of into that as well a little bit, just for the sake of togetherness. So I do a bit of both, and I think I've started getting into the thrillers as well myself. So yes, the action thrillers, the chick flicks. I mean, I watch those by myself, but I quite enjoy the company when I'm watching movies. So I would go for a thriller as well sometimes.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much. When you were talking about African books, it just made reminiscence about the essence of our organization. The essence of our organization is to expose children to international literatures, especially Africans, to begin to let children understand about their background and how an African envisage his environment when he or she is writing. You understand? And so I think that's one of the things, just to give them that feel of identity. You spoke about identity, and that really, hit me. And when you were speaking, you said you stayed in the Western world for a long time. Does it mean you were born in the Western world or you were born in Nigeria? So how did that translation come in?
Well, to be honest, I was born in Nigeria, and I actually lived in Nigeria for many years till I was a teenager. I remember I went to university in Nigeria. I was in my second year, first semester, when I got that life-changing phone call from my dad, and he said, "We're moving." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's good. When you I'll come to wherever it is we're moving to when we're on a holiday or break or whatever. And he says, no, we're leaving the country. I'm like, oh my word. So I was in second year medical school when my dad phoned me and said we were leaving. I was about 17 at the time. And yes, and that was it really. We began the journey of coming to the UK to live.
And so that is interesting to see the journey. So kids, it's not only adults that move from Africa, but you see, she's still longing for that. And that's one of the things I'm trying to tell kids, that no matter how, where you were born, at a point in your life, you begin to yearn for your real identity. You begin to question yourself, who am I? So because we don't want kids to be left in a vacuum of who they are, we are beginning to tell them, look, enjoy, find out about yourself, discover the beauty of your part of your DNA. You know, you are born in Scotland, you are Scottish, but you still have a DNA of an African, which cannot be rubbed off.
Absolutely.
So enjoy the knowledge of it, and most of the time, enjoy the educative knowledge of it. Yes, you should know the painful history, but don't allow yourself to be dragged into that. Allow yourself to enjoy and, you know, relish who you are, and relish your culture, relish your identity. With that, you realize that nobody can say anything and it will upset you because you know who you are. The reason why we are upset most of the time is because we don't know who we are. And so when somebody says something, we get upset. But knowing who you are just establishes you, and whatever you say is like water on the dog's body. It just moves away.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
So now that we know you, Big J,
what are the house rules you grew up with?
What are the house rules you grew up with?
Well, in my family, we were a family of 7, but our house was always very full, to be honest. You know, we were probably a family of 10, 12 all the time. I think respect was one of the major things. You know, there was that arrangement, that organization. So dad is here, mom is here up here with him, and then you have all the children in hierarchy. You know, you were taught to respect your elders, to respect your seniors. You know, that was really big in our family. When I want to answer that question, I have to think about the times when my parents got upset the most. You know, that would kind of be an indication of what was allowed or what wasn't allowed. So yes, any form of disrespect, fighting, you know, one of the things our parents taught us to do was to stay within our family and to keep to, not necessarily just keep to ourselves, but to be conscious of what our family is doing at every point in time, to keep our eyes on the home front. You know, so for example, if your friend has invited you for a party and there's something going on in the family, of course, we would focus more on that, you know, than anything outside. You know, that was a kind of a rule, more of a privacy. And I would say it's not quite as African as, you know, we're very communal, very community oriented, you know, and we were like that, you know, as long as the family was not affected, basically. Yes. So yeah, those were the rules, you know, just respect and more respect and understanding where you are and working together as a family. Those were the rules in a nutshell.
Wow. This is the shortest family house rules I've heard in a long time.
That was it in a nutshell.
my Big J said is good and it's just short and sweet. Yeah, that's interesting. Like the girls already know the first rule that comes out of every parent's mouth is respect. So immediately you said it, they say, oh, we know that.
Yeah,
we know that.
That's just the African way. That's the African way.
Now, your house rules you grew up with is just short and sweet, and we love it. But how has the house rule, how did it influence you as an adult?
I really enjoyed, I didn't enjoy it as a child, being respectful, but I now see where my parents were coming from, because I read a post this morning or meme or something, and that was saying that how we know that you were raised right is not by the fact that you don't do this or you don't do this or you don't do that, but how you treat the people around you. That's how people assess whether you're raised right or not. So the ability to respect everybody and respect those around us is so important. Now, there is the downsides of respect, which is not asking questions from time to time, you know, so that's another aspect of it. However, by and large, realizing that there is God in everybody, there is good in everybody, and that everybody has a place in the world and that they should be respected. That for me is, you know, was so important and has really, you know, affected me in my way of seeing things. For example, like even when I wanted to, for example, get married, and when I wanted to meet a new family, like I said, my family was very, very family focused. So I wasn't as exposed to so many other people and so many other cultures growing up. My parents used to be very strict. As a matter of fact, some of our domestic staff, for example, like the person that was that used to bring us home from school, like who you would call a driver, his closing time was immediately after we got home from school. So he took it upon himself to make sure that we didn't have any fun after school. So you would be trying to sneak away and play with your friends, and you would hear your name, and he would just bundle us in the car and take us home. That was the life we lived, and I wasn't so exposed. However, one of the things that learning to respect other people did for me was when it was time to get married, or when we actually, for example, moved to a different culture entirely, just learning that respect. I saw the doors it opened, you know, being respectful, being, you know, open, and people were amazed at how respectful we were. You know, for example, there was a man in our church. He was a grandfather, over 70 or so, and he would say, "Oh, just call me John." So John would often say, "Just call me John." And I remember just saying, "No, but you're a granddad, you know, I don't know, that's just not the way I was raised." And he always used to take it upon himself to call people and say, "Come and listen to what this girl is saying." I said to her, "Call me John." And she's like, you know, he always used us as an exhibit almost for his grandchildren. Look at those kids, you know, you guys just feel it's okay to call me John. Even though I'm asking her to call me John, she's not willing to call me John. That's the respect of old. And he would always say, that's how we used to live. We've lost that, you know. So I think, yes, that's one of the things that we have, that being brought up in an African family has really done for me, and it's enabled me to also pass on to my children as well.
Yeah, because that is very interesting. You said some very interesting things. The issue of calling people aunties and uncles and grandpa and grandma that are not necessarily a nuclear family is becoming an Asian thing. And you find even some parents and children in the diaspora having conflicting ideas. That's old age. We shouldn't do it anymore. And I find myself saying, okay, it's my culture. Should I throw it away because I am now in a new place? Or should I throw it away because I'm now in the Western world? The Western culture has its own way of doing things. Should I throw mine away because it's now old, in quotes? And I just felt, no, I don't think it's right, because we should be able to pass to our generation what we are. And calling people aunties, uncle, grandpa, whether they are your grandpa or not, is the first sign of respect for somebody that has a DNA of an African. And kids listening at home, it's not a matter of obligation. It's a matter of you knowing that it's courtesy, it's respect, it's the way you show that somebody is older than you, you know. I know, just like you said, there's a downside to it when it comes to respect from Africa, because kids are not allowed to express themselves or to ask questions as they would love to, which I would say I'm not primarily encouraged by. For me, when I'm raising the girls, even though sometimes I don't want them to ask why, you understand? But the thing is, I encourage them, when you hear me ask you to do something, do it. When you finish doing it, then come back and let's have a chat. Why do I have to do it? Why is the process like this? Sometimes because I was not raised up with asking why to my parents. Why sounds off to an African parent. You understand? And so for us to bridge the gap, we are not saying that you shouldn't know the reason, because I was raised without even asking the reason. I'm saying now, do it first. Then you ask me, why did I have to do it? Why can't we do it this way? And then for me to now bridge that understanding, like we are now coming to a compromise of obeying first and then ask, and then I would explain to you, and then we'll have a chat about it. That's the way I'm trying to raise the girls. I don't know if I'm doing a good job at it. Somebody else
I think that's a fantastic midpoint. I think, I think that's a fantastic way of compromising and just having because these kids are raised in a society where they're encouraged to know why, and I see why they're encouraged to know why, and I think it's a good thing. So I really admire that, because I think that's a good balance. You know, the children are encouraged to know why in society where we live, and I think it's very important. You know, there are things like, you know, some of the issues we're seeing, some of the social issues to do with indecent handling of kids, for example. And if children are not raised to ask questions or to challenge certain things that are not right, a lot of damage can be done. So yes, it's getting that balance, and knowing where to ask questions, when to ask the question, and as you say, getting in there first and having that conversation of talking about it, which is something that we didn't really do an awful lot of, talking about it in advance. We just dealt with things as they came. So I think that being proactive is amazing too. Yes.
So we have the proactive and we have the reactive way of dealing with issues when it comes to communication, responsibility, respect in the house. You understand? So kids at home, Auntie Kelechi, Auntie Helen, and the Jgirls are reminding us that try and understand your African parents. It's not all about they want me to do this. I don't want to do it. Why should I do it? Oh, why? Oh man, the amount of why I've heard. If they put but the thing is, try and understand that your parents are not raised up the way every other parent outside is raised up, especially in the Western culture. And try and understand that your parent loves you. They might not be able to appreciate the way you want it because this is a different environment. Work with them. Once you've done what they ask you to do, listen, ask questions. I don't think there's any African parent here, after you've done what they ask you to do, if you ask questions, they will throw water on you. I don't think. It's just for you to understand that this is a new way of raising me up and I have to appreciate them because they think in a different way and they came from a different way. And so based on that, Little J,
what rules do you use at home now?
What rules do you use at home?
Yes, I think, for that's a great question, first of all, because of course we're now raising our children in a completely different environment. As a matter of fact, I saw my parents make that transition because my parents were very African parents, right? Exactly. Our youngest was about 8 years old when we moved to the UK, and I saw my parents, the wheels churning in their heads of this is gonna have to change, a lot of things are gonna have to change, and I saw it play out. I saw my siblings start to realize, oh my goodness, I've got right. I saw them begin to come to that realization that, oh, this is a different place entirely. I saw how that played out. I saw all of that. And so for me, coming into my own family, do not remove the old landmark. And I try to keep the old landmarks, which is the old landmarks of let's respect. Okay, let's start with from the place of respect. Greeting your elders, responding when your parents say something, valuing the words of your parents. And I think that's the difference, coming from Africa where there's corporal punishment to a place where you can't really administer corporal punishment. I've learned that my voice or my words have to be the strongest in my child's life. So it's just learning to be honest, to just nurture to the point where the rules are ingrained, right? So for me, those are the rules: respecting one another, being kind to one another, being considerate of one another, and still the same thing with my family, focusing on family. We're helping outside as well from time to time, but focusing on family. For example, I found that, when my siblings were teenagers, as every teenager, your friends are more important than your family. And I see a level of extremeness, if there's a word like that, about that, where children don't want to even be near their parents because they're teenagers, or as a teenager, you don't even want anything to do with your family or anything like that. So that's been strong in my heart. I don't want to be in that place or in that space where my children want nothing to do with me just because they're teenagers and it's uncool to be with their parents. And I think it's a job that parents have to start early to let them know that this is home. We are family. Friends are good, but friends are not as important. We're even in a society, I feel, where you have to work really hard to get deep friendships home. Deeper friendship came much easier back home growing up, I find. And so you have to work extra hard to get deeper friendships. So I feel like family is very, very important, in this society. And it's just trying to establish that with my children and letting them know that, family is family. I think those are the two basic rules that I stick to. Family is family. family. Your parents are your parents, and it's so important that we remain that way even into old age. We see what's happening with older people now and how people are struggling, people are dying of loneliness. For example, in this COVID season, it's really separated a lot of things out. It's made me realize how important it is for us to stay close as family, because when the chips are down like it was during COVID, a lot of people I know suffered, and that's because they've never cultivated that family, you know, togetherness. You know, families maybe can go for months, weeks without talking to each other, can say we don't even talk at all, you know. So learning to salvage that relationship, to keep that relationship going, you know, even for the tough days, both on the part of the children and the parents. That's another rule that I try to keep, you know, letting us know that we are one. So one of the things I try to teach my children is we are one and the same. You are your brother's keeper. Cain said, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. That's the answer. You are your brother's keeper. You are your sister's keeper. Being vigilant, because we also live in a world where it's almost as if it's like dog eat dog almost. So having someone in your corner at every point in time, to me, I find it as a very important ingredient for mental health survival, even in teenage years for kids. So knowing that they have somebody they can talk to, knowing that they have family, they have sisters, they have brothers they can talk to. So I try to instill that. I try to develop those relationships as well between the children and even amongst their friends, you know, as well. So yeah, those are the reasons.
I really appreciate inviting you. One of the reasons I do is because you are like a second generation of those that moved away from Africa. I'm not saying because you came in at but it's your parents that are in my shoes right now. I'm trying to unwind and understand, where am I going? You understand? On this journey. And so it's crucial that someone like you can reflect on what the process your parents have gone through, and it makes the journey easier for you when you are doing it. Even though you are still putting the landmarks, it gives you a very good reflection about the rules you had to drop. You mentioned crowd punishment. The rules you had to drop and say, okay, this one can't work. I need to re-engineer how I'm going to raise these kids, even though I still keep my culture, I still keep my traditions, I still keep what I was raised up with in a more not lenient, but in a more
compliant way. Yes. You got to comply with the rules. Yes.
In a more compliant way. And so, girls, so far, what comment do you have to say in terms of reflecting on me as a mom and reflecting on the way I grew up and the way you have been raised up here?
Things are different. Well, for you, like there are different laws, different rules that you have to abide by. I don't know.
The rules and what?
And now I know that you're trying to teach us. You're trying to take the thing from your family and give it to us.
Okay, now you know I'm trying to take the things I learned from my family and give it to them. It's not because I just manufactured something and say this is the way it should be done. Yeah, but it's because we found it well, we found it good, we found that it helped us to be healthy, responsible, you know, community people. Yeah, it found that it made us different.
I mean, I think it's hypocrisy to have prisons if you don't let the parents discipline their children. It's hypocrisy to eventually have prisons because somehow there is a consequence. And the earlier we start to draw the boundaries, the better, you know. So
the word that word boundaries, exactly. A lot of boundaries are missing in the society, and I just hope that beyond African family, anybody watching this, black, white, green, blue, yellow, whoever you are, I don't care. We just want boundaries to be established for kids because it's important. I just like what you said. There's no point having prisons in adulthood if you can't establish boundaries for children, because psychologically boundaries are like prison that gives the child, this is where you should go, this is where you shouldn't go, this is your limit.
This is like when you go out without my sister, you say you can only go around.
Exactly. Now when she goes out and play without a sister with her, I give her a boundary. You can only play within the compound. You understand? Because that is the only boundary of your safety I can guarantee. But if you have to play or outside the clothes, you need your sister or an adult to be with you. Exactly. And that is how rules should be. That is how raising a kid should be. And so by the time the child start growing, they also learn boundaries in relationship. Like yesterday, I was listening to a video about pornography and child exploitation, talking about how children as early as 7, 8 boys are exposed so much to pornography that they don't understand how to treat girls decently. And so they just go and treat ladies anyhow because their mind have crossed the boundary of childhood and the rule of what they should and shouldn't at their age. And I think parents, like you said, should take more responsibility to make sure that we put those boundaries so that that child will not grow up to be a rapist, that child will not grow up to be another pimp selling girls. There are horrible things happening out.
Going on, yes. And I think that's an aspect of rules that is completely new to us. My parents, for example, maybe eventually now started to talk to us about mobile phones and devices and computers, So, but going back home in Africa, back then, these things weren't a thing. So rules about devices, about security, about cyber activity is another aspect now, I mean, my kids own devices that they use at home, and I haven't yet decided to give any of my children phones yet. I'm still holding off on that. But at the moment, I'm holding off on that one. I'm thinking about it, but I've not decided to do it yet. And I see, of course, we have to do boundaries with sleep and activity at home. So for rules, things like devices, for example, we have to have time boundaries. We have to fix timings, and dad is a tech kind of person. So he can, from wherever he is, switch off the iPad, he can, from wherever he is, cut off the internet, and things like that. So we have to keep those rules alive. So that way we can be safe and we can be secure. And it's just also just highlighting certain incidents that happen. I don't always expose them to the news or things that are happening, but when things happen that are significant, I try to show my children and use it as a point of teaching them, to let them see learn from somebody else's mistake, for example, somebody else who has gone all the way where, you could go if you don't follow the rules and see the consequences. And I think that really helps. So that's another aspect of rules that we are now having to deal with that we probably never had to deal with before,
That's very interesting you raised that up. And I would say you have the first guest that have raised the modern new rules, which I never dealt with. I can remember, I think I got my first phone when I was 18 or 19. So I said, whoa.
That's too long to wait to divide my thing.
So, and then the devices was not a smartphone. Is this Nokia 700 or Nokia, those old Nokia phones that was just for communication, pure communication. And one of the things I was trying to establish with the kids is that social media is not your friendship platform. You need to build old friendship traditional way, making friends traditional way, because social media is a fake world. It's not a real, it's like a fantasy world. It's like playing a game, Minecraft, in a fantasy zone. That's exactly the way social media is. So you shouldn't build your friendship or relationship based on comments or what people say or the likes you have, because these are some of the things that are giving our children mental instability, lack of confidence, identity issue, peer pressure, because they don't have enough likes or somebody says something bad about them. So like you said, if we can raise children to appreciate family, to appreciate one-to-one relationship and the importance of loyalty, integrity, respect, if peradventure they go on the internet, I don't think they'll be rude to anybody. I don't think they will be liking things without any sense of sincerity, because they've learned to be sincere with one another in the family.
Well, that's so powerful. I've just learned. I've learned something from that. I've really learned something from that. That has really taught me something. That's focusing on one-to-one friendship, one-to-one relationships, and not just online relationships. I personally, one of the rules that I have as well, speaking of rules, is you're not allowed to add anybody on your Roblox, for example. Roblox is this game that kids are really into now. You're not allowed to add anybody on Roblox or chat to anyone online whose mom and dad we don't already know. And without even, and at the point where you actually add that person as your friend, I need to be notified that so and so person is now my friend on Roblox. And we have agreed. Well, it's normally moms even that exchange the Roblox details and then give to the children, because it's such a big world out there. The world of social media and internet is even bigger than the physical world, right?
I said there are a lot of pedophiles going on children platforms and children networks to do imaginable things, you know. And so why can't you go back to Nigeria? In fact, who told you Nigeria is better? Anywhere you are raised, be raised with the concept of God. That's the most important thing. It's not the location, it's not
the location. But having said that, I also believe that, because I know when my oldest was 5, I remember her, like, in their school, they're the only children of color, the only African children present in their school. So I noticed that it used to have a lot of effect. You know, at that time they weren't the only ones. There was a couple more, but there weren't that many. So I noticed that it had some effect on my children, and I noticed they were asking a lot of questions, or she was asking a lot of questions. And I remember the very first time we went home to Nigeria to visit. I'm not saying you have to move to Nigeria or anything like that, but I believe that visits for our children are important. I mean, there's also ways in which you can so introduce your children to the African reading, African writing, African movies and TVs and documentaries, that it can give them the knowledge and understanding. But there's also that level of experiential knowledge of identity that comes from going there to the soil yourself. And I remember the very first time we went home with my 5-year-old, 5.5, nearly 6-year-old at the time. And I remember her looking around and seeing that everybody was brown, you know, and I know how there was, like, I remember her seeing everybody, knowing that everybody was, but I know the confidence that did for my child. I know what that did for my daughter. And ever since then, I said to my husband, you know, we need to try our best. We need to try and ensure, even if it's once every 3 years, let's try to take these kids home for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so that they can reconnect with who they are, see their family again, hug their grandmother again, you know, go to those places. And I find that, even I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and the person was saying, when we go home to Nigeria, oh, you know, who goes to the village? Nobody goes to the village. I prefer, as a matter of fact, when we first came to the UK as my family, before my family, my parents and my siblings, every time we went home to Nigeria, we went to our hometown. My dad would take us straight to our hometown. So you chase chickens, you feed goats, you do all of those things all over again, you know. And even my sister now, who is, like, you know, in her 20s, I remember the last time we went home to our hometown, I wasn't quite sure anymore where anything was, and we would phone her. Now she has a British accent, right? But she was our sat nav. She would say, where are you? What can you see? Go this way, go that way. Because my parents made sure that whenever we went home to Nigeria, we went to our very hometown. You know, they made sure we could speak the language. They made sure that we had that connection, you know, back to our very soil, not just Lagos, not just Abuja or anywhere else, but to our very hometown. And I think that where possible, it is a very good thing. I've seen the power of that in my child's life, in my own life. And I think it's really important that we always try to reconnect as much as possible, to reconnect with our family and to physically try to go where possible.
Yeah, very important. I'm yet to do that.
Yes.
I'm yet to do that.
Because I wanted to go as well.
They've been telling me for years. But the thing is, for me, if I can't go and I fit into the profile of parents that is not possible to go, I want to try as much as possible to expose them to what it feels like here, you know, and they don't, so that when they go, they are not complete strangers to what it is, you know, because there are some families that don't even want to let their children identify with cultural things. But for me,
and there are parents as well who only highlight the negatives, and when you really, I know parents who only highlight the negatives, so the children themselves, and I don't know if it's a thing, of I don't want to go, I maybe don't want to be able to bring out the money to go, so let me just make it clear that it's not a good idea, children end up not wanting to go. So some people, children don't even want to go.
Yeah, that's because the parents have given them a negative vibe about where we come from. And by the time the kids also see the adverts of skinny little African children with flies and bows around them, they have the concept that this is where they come from, and they begin to feel ashamed. And that is what I want to break, because that is not the Africa I came from.
No, not at all.
The Africa I came from, parts of it is richer than the UK.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Our kids need to know that if I go to Lagos and buy a house, the amount I use to buy a house, some people can't use it to buy a house. Can't use it
at all. And the space you have, like the space, like I've never in the UK lived in a house as big as my house in Nigeria. I've never been able to, I've probably seen, I don't know if I've seen, or I've never entered a house that has the square meters of the house of my father's house in Nigeria. So like anybody saying any such thing.
Check out the sitting rooms in Nigeria houses. They're like palaces. White and marble floors and
marble floors, yes, absolutely. And I think that's what our children need to see. And I think that's what our children, even when they interact with other kids and other kids have the false, mentality of what it is because of what the media is portraying, our children can say, no, actually, I've been there. This was my experience. I actually want to go back for this reason, So yes, I think it does a world of good. And even to be honest, if it's not possible, I think you're absolutely on the right track, portraying the beauty of where you come from. There is a YouTuber I would recommend that people watch. He's called Wodemaya. I love how he portrays Africa, and I think that's what we should all be doing, looking for how to make the things that are not good better, but still celebrating our culture and celebrating who we are as a people.
Yeah. All right. So let's quickly move on. I'm doing one. Okay. What inspires you to keep going?
What inspires me to keep going? I think as a mother now, one of the first things that inspires me to keep going is my children. Once you've had children, you come to that place where pretty much everything you do is for your children, for the sake of your children, So I think that's an important aspect. But my daily inspiration every day to go on comes from my knowledge and my understanding of who God is, in me, and how much God loves me and how much God is interested in me. I had a bad day this week. One of the days I really had a bad day, and I got thinking about how I've not had a bad day for a long time. And so I was like, today is really not going well, and I realized that there are other people who might have bad days maybe every other day or a bit more frequently than I'm having a bad day. And the way I was able to pick up myself that day was to just go back into myself and remind myself how much God loves me, and to bring back up some of the scriptures that are in my heart, tucked away somewhere, and just ruminate over them. And I felt better. I mean, the day didn't get better, but I definitely felt better, So I think those are the two things, just every day for my children, and also being able to pick up myself from a dark place using my knowledge and understanding of God.
Yeah, I think I like what you said, that the day didn't get better, but I got better. And children should understand that circumstances don't have to be better. Situations and their friendships and everything don't have to be better. The core focus is you. Are you getting? I like what you said about making yourself better by going back to the things that lifted you up. And kids should focus on the things that lift them up. All the things about mental health among kids is because they are focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on friends filling the gap in your heart where it shouldn't be friends filling it. You are focusing on social media filling the gap in your heart where it shouldn't be. You're focusing on what people say about you to determine who you are, and then that scrolls you up and just destroys you totally if you don't get that affirmation from the sources info. The truth is, where is the source of your affirmation? If you can focus on the source, some of us have a source of affirmation that is everlasting, that we can run to. For those that don't have, get a source of affirmation that is not external that you can look up to in those bad days, that even if the day is bad in school, you can remember something, one thing, a word of affirmation, a word of truth, scriptures, whatever it is, and speak that into yourself and make yourself better, right? That is the goal. Make yourself better. All right.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for that. I really appreciate that. Question.
Tell us about your hero.
My hero, I would have to say, is my dad. Yes. Yes, my dad is my hero. I've chosen my dad as my hero because one of the things that I struggled, or I found to be a struggle for me the most over my life when I look back, is something that he did in a very significant way. And there was a time when my dad was seriously and grievously offended by certain people, and we all saw what happened. We all saw it happen, and it was really deep and it was really difficult. It was a very difficult time for my entire family right before we moved to the UK. And I watched my father live. He had been teaching us the word of God for years, but that singular act of forgiveness that he gave to the people that hurt him it spoke to me way more than all those days and years of scripture reading and all of those not rituals, but those traditions, you know. And him living out his faith in that moment in something that was very clear and very public really taught me that it is possible to live, to be who you say you are, to have integrity. And that really taught me a lot, and I respect my dad a lot for doing that. It's not something that I don't know till today if I would be able to do what he did, you know, but it definitely inspired me, and I really have a lot of respect for my dad for just that singular act that he did. So yes, that's my hero.
Good. Thank you for the lesson that he taught. And he's not a perfect man, like somebody rightly highlighted that many of us pick human heroes, but heroes are supposed to be perfect, but there's nobody that is perfect. But there's something you've learned from that hero. And girls, what are you taking away from Auntie's hero?
That he should have integrity.
Integrity. What else?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Done wrong,
Yeah.
even if they don't say sorry.
Even if they don't say sorry, learn to
They say
forgive.
sorry.
We have to go through that every day in our house too. Learn to forgive, even if they don't say sorry, just let it go. And we are having that. It's a continuous learning journey, and I hope all of us will get to a point where it's easier by the day to let go and forgive. What advice do you have for the kids?
Oh, my advice, girls, is that you find your identity in a place that is not shaken. Okay, so we're trying to deepen our roots in our African culture, deepen our roots in who we are, deepen our roots in our spiritual culture, which is the culture of knowing God and knowing who He is. You know, whatever you do, protecting your thought life in that aspect of your identity is very important. So always remembering who you are, remembering whose you are, and just continue to focus on that, because I find that that is the one thing, no matter what your friend does, that's the one thing, as your mom has said earlier, that can sustain you. And all the kids watching, you know, as your parents are teaching you who you are, take that seriously, because there are days that will come in really handy, that who you are will be able to, you know, help you. We see it in the movies. We saw it with Simba. What's his name? Simba in The Lion King. When he was asked, who are you? You know, who you are is really, they talk about it all the time. Yeah, it's not a cliche. It is really the truth, because on those dark days, on those difficult days when your friend has said something about you, or when your friend doesn't want to speak to you, who you are is the most important factor, you know, and that will help you to reconnect, re-establish who you are, and then you can always give from there. You can always love from there. You can always rebuild from there. Who you are is so important. So always keep that in mind as you grow up, kids.
Thank you. Who you are. I think that was the basis of our contest that we just had recently on RWJ, trying to define who you are. And what's one of the core of our organization, to make it understand who you are. What is your identity? What are you made of? What is, you know, what is your DNA? Go back to that. Enjoy that. Love that. Enjoy who you are personally. Just relish who you are.
Because when you find out who you are, you find out that why I say who you are is because who you are is really amazing. So when you find out who you are, you find out why it's important to know who you are. You're not going to find anything negative when you go searching for who you are. You're going to find great things that can help you.
I want to remind kids that you're unique. There's nobody that is Jemima. There's nobody that is Jedidah. There's nobody that can laugh like Mommy J, the way Mommy J wants to laugh. Even though they say she laughs like me, but the intensity is still different. And so it's important that your uniqueness is discovered. Do not let somebody say you are fat, you are this, you are short, you are black, your hair is this, your nose is this. In fact, that can actually be your uniqueness, because your pointed nose or your fatty nose or your big ear makes you different from another person completely. So relish things that make you different and peculiar, you know, and just love yourself. Auntie Kelechi, you have done us a lot of a wonderful good today, and I'll get back to Jgirls. Can you give us a feedback? What have you learned from today? I've learned so much new things. I've had a lot of chat.
Respect.
Me too.
Respect. Integrity. Respect. What else? Be yourself. What else?
That things are different in Nigeria.
That things are different from our culture. And we should adapt. Things are different. Growing up for your parents.
Forget all the good things you have learned in the past.
Don't forget all the good things you've learned in the past. Don't say because I'm in a new place. For kids that will go to the university, they will say, okay, now I'm not under my father's canopy again. I can do anything I like. Don't forget the things, you know, those that will go back to the boarding house. If you're in boarding house, don't forget those little things you were taught in the house, because those are the pillars that will build your life. And one thing Auntie also said is internet safety. You know, mind what you watch, mind the people you invite into your platform. You understand? And yeah, like Roblox. Okay, what else? Now, one big thing she told us today that anybody should not forget is the concept of family.
Don't think that because you're older now you can just leave your family.
You can leave your family. Your family is the most important unit. You know, guard it with all you have. Guard it, Jemima. Guard it, Jadida. All the kids out there, guard your family, because whatever, when we have good families and united family, we will have a united society. We are trying to put our mark in the sand to let people go back to the basic, the values, morals, and the things that bring families together to build the society into the right thing it should be. All right, so guys, thank you everybody at home, kids, mommies, daddies, uncles, aunties, children that are listening to us. Thank you for joining us today. I had a very insightful conversation with Kelechi, and I guess the girls did too. And thank you so much, Kelechi, for coming today. We really appreciate you coming. And on this note, we'll want